All right, we're a special guest tonight is Barry Strom, and we are discussing his new book that you need to pick up from Amazon called Spirits Speak of the Universe. Now, Barry, I'm wondering if you would oblige us and go back because you mentioned crop circles. Can you tell me what they shared with you about them?
Okay. Crop circles have existed for a long time. In my first alien book, I actually have a woodcut of a crop circle that was done around 1640. And they referred to them as a mowing devil because, people at that time had absolutely no way or thought of alien beings. They serve different purposes. Sometimes they are there to leave messages for the other aliens. And actually, Mu told us, they said they love to do these crop circles because they like to mess with us. So sometimes they just do it because they can. It's done with a type of air force that they use to make these patterns. And it's there was a very famous one that was done near Stonehenge, and there were actually witnesses to what the people that watched this thing take place. They couldn't see the ship, but they could see this crop circle taking form. So they had the ship was in stealth mode, and they used this type of it's a very hard to describe, but it's like they use wind force to beat down the grass particles, and they form these different things, and some of them have different meanings. There's a couple of them that people think they have actually translated, but they're very, very real. Probably I would say about a third of them are real, because some of them are fake now. But when the real ones are the ones with the great detail and examples. I've got some good pictures of them in my first alien book.
Barry, can you tell me if you know of any places here on Earth that hold great significance for these extraterrestrials?
Yeah, they've had a permanent base in Antarctica for forever. The pyramids were built with the assistance of aliens, and they were actually used for navigation in the early days. There are a lot of structures around. Right now, there is a pyramid, the melting ice in Antarctica. There's actually a pyramid that is emerging from the ice down there. I have a picture of it in my universe book. But disclosure is going to come from what's taking place down in Antarctica. As the ice melts, the base is going to become more and more obvious down there. And Mu tells us that we'll have disclosure probably by the year 2020, so it's coming pretty fast.
So did they tell you why Antarctica is important to them, or is it just a place they chose?
Well, it's a place where they haven't been bothered. Weather means nothing to these aliens. I mean, many of them breathe different types of climates. Temperatures don't bother them. So Antarctica was a logical place to build a base because there weren't many humans down there at the time. Now, as we get more and more involved in exploring Antarctica, we've uncovered their bases, and we're creating problems down there because it's getting harder and harder to keep what's happening a secret. The last year of the Obama administration, the Secretary of State Kerry made a quick trip down to Antarctica towards the end of it, at the end of it.
Well, actually, he wasn't the only one, but yes, we actually caught him.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't going down to make snow angels.
Right.
He was going down to calm down the situation, and it'll be harder and harder to keep this a secret in the upcoming few years.
What do you think he was actually doing, Barry? Like they discovered something, so he needed to have eyes on it, or what?
Yeah. No, they uncovered the base down there, and the aliens were not happy about it. For one thing, what we did we have a treaty with them. Basically, they're allowed to observe and help us, and it's supposed to be kept a secret. Well, all of a sudden, we've uncovered this thing down there, and there was a risk of it becoming public. So Carrie had to go down and calm the situation with him and talk.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive. Most of you aren't just listening right now. You're driving, cleaning, and even exercising. But what if you could be saving money by switching to Progressive? Drivers who save by switching save nearly $750 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Multitask right now. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
Lowe's knows how to turn big plans into real results. Whether it's new appliances or a home refresh, get started with 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more with a MyLowe's Rewards credit card, January 15th through the 30th. So you can invest in your upgrade now and pay over time. Lowe's, we help, you save. Offer subject to credit approval and cannot be combined. Minimum monthly payment required. See store at Lowe's.com for details.
Skincare experts and dermatologists have often touted the benefits of indoor humidity as essential for healthy, glowing skin. But did you know dry air can start to harm your skin in as little as 30 minutes? For years, many people have relied on humidifiers for better skin, sleep, and overall wellness. But traditional models, bulky, mold-prone, and difficult to maintain. That's where Canopy Humidifier comes in. Recommended by leading dermatologists, Canopy is a completely reimagined humidifier designed to elevate any space, offering the ultimate in skincare and wellness benefits. Canopy's clean moisture combats dryness, dullness, and fine lines while strengthening the skin's barrier and boosting the effectiveness of topical skincare products. With its sleek design, Canopy is the cleanest and easiest humidifier on the market. With its unique technology, cleaning is as easy as popping it in the dishwasher. Go to getcanopy.co to save $25 on your Canopy humidifier purchase today with Canopy's filter subscription. Even better, use code PODCAST at checkout to save an additional 10% off your Canopy purchase. Your skin will thank you.
But no, it was not an accident that he rushed down there.
This probably has a lot to do with our run-in with them supposedly when Admiral Byrd went down the first time, correct?
Yes, it all ties together. That was all part of it.
Okay. All right. So, what about the world's oceans, Barry? They have to be down there, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Many of their bases are underwater. They told us there's an underwater base in Catalina Bay in California.
Okay. Well, a lot of people suspect that. Okay. So, all right. So, I want to know if you've had a UFO sighting.
I have. I was driving out west, and I was driving out on Interstate 80, and I just had this feeling that I was going to see something going out, and I actually had my camera on the car seat with me, and I looked over, and here are these 3 triangle ships, and I threw the car over on the shoulder, and they were entering a cloud formation. I jumped out, got the camera ready, and they never came out of the damn cloud. but I guess they decided to go stealth. But they showed himself to me just as sure, and I just had the feeling I was going to see that. Now I'll take you a step further in that I've seen a real alien, not just a ship, but a real honest-to-God reptilian. We have an apartment here close to the store in Pennsylvania, and Connie and I were asleep, and we sleep with a lot of night light on because we have a black cat and we don't want to kill ourselves or the cat. So I wake up in the middle of the night, I sit up, and I see this big form standing next to her side of the bed. And I looked at it and I thought, man, I got to be dreaming. I clear my head and I look at it, and I can see it's got a short reptilian head, it's standing about 7 foot. And it turns and it looks at me, and believe it or not, it smiles, and I can see it in the light. And then it's just like you snap your fingers and he knocks me out. And I wake up the next morning and I'm thinking, did I dream this thing? What happened? So I get a hold of my friends out in Salt Lake City with the channeling board. We're in Pennsylvania. I say, I want you to do me a favor tonight. We need to channel by Skype. Okay. So that night we called them on Skype. Now keep in mind, the channeling board is 2,000 miles away from me. And these people know absolutely nothing about what has taken place. So I asked for Moo to come in for us. And he comes in for them out there. And he says, Moo, I have a question for you. I said, did I see a real alien last night? And the answer in Salt Lake City is yes. And did you see him smile at you? And I hadn't even told Connie.
You hadn't even mentioned it to anybody.
To nobody. So I have to assume that yes, I think I really did see a real one.
So is this? This is the first and last time you've ever experienced that?
Yes, I've been followed by an alien drone already, but that was the first time I ever saw a real one in physical form. I got a glimpse of Moo one time. He just showed him to me in a split second, but this was the real deal. He was standing there. When I saw it, I thought, knowing that my wife had been abducted a couple times, I thought, when I got it in the morning, I thought, well, I guess she just went for another trip and she's back.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that a little more. Now, okay, so why is your wife being taken?
It ties into what we're doing. They give her information, download abilities for. The time she was taken was about 20 years ago, and we were living down in Florida. She drops me off at the Fort Lauderdale airport and comes back up 95. And all of a sudden she realizes that she's like 20 miles north of the last thing she remembers. And she's going through like 2 or 3 exits on 95 with no memory. And it's just like this, it snaps back on and she knows exactly where she is, except for this little gap in time where she traverses about 20 miles of one of the most active highways in the country without knowing it. At the time, we certainly weren't involved with any of the channeling or psychic abilities thing. When she went to the doctor, doctor said she must have just fallen asleep. Well, that wasn't going to work. You fall asleep on I-95 and you're in a permanent sleep with that traffic down there. So we just kind of put it in the back of our minds. And then once we started channeling with Moo, one night she said, Moo, can you explain what happened to me on that evening? And he said, of course, you were abducted. You had a learning session with us. And she said, well, how did you do it? And Moo is a little bit of a smart ass. He comes back and says, it's easy if you know how. And I said, okay, you know how, tell us how it happened. And he said, well, what we did is we put a shapeshifter in the car. We took her, transported her up to the ship, put a shapeshifter in that looked like her, and the shapeshifter drives the car for that 20 miles. They were finished with her, and they exchanged her with the shapeshifter, brought her back, and she never knew what happened.
You've been taken as well, right, Barry?
What they tell me is that I've never been physically taken, but they've done a lot of downloads with me. Where during your sleep.
What does that mean?
They'll put a lot of information in your head.
Okay. And they do this while you're awake or asleep or what?
Generally it's while you're asleep. They come in, you never really know it takes place. It happens to many people. One thing Moo tells us about these abductions is that it's basically only done to help us. If they take a person and they find out they have a physical illness, quite often they will cure them. People have these illnesses and all of a sudden they have these miracle cures. Well, sometimes it's because they've been abducted and they've been cured.
All right, let's go back to disclosure. Now, you said it may happen or should happen in 2020. Is that going to come from the bottom up, which I think would have to happen? I don't think it's ever going to come from the top down. Meaning, I don't think the president's not going to come out and say anything, or either they are going to have to show themselves, or this information is going to have to be revealed from the people to the masses.
Things are going to happen that they will not be able to keep a secret, and we're progressing very rapidly towards it with the internet and social media, and everybody's got a camera on them now. So it's only a matter of time till something really takes place. It's going to be recorded and will be, irrevocable evidence of the presences around us.
When you go to write these books, Barry, are you deciding to do this yourself, or are they telling you to do it?
They're telling me to do it. I laughingly thought I was telling myself in the beginning, but the more I'm doing this, the more I realize that it's all programmed. For instance, I'll tell you how it takes place. When I told Moo, I said, okay, I want to write a book about this. And he says, okay, when you want to write, call me about an hour before that you want to write, and I will get into your head. And if I don't like what you're writing, I will make your nose itch or give you blurry vision. And as I was writing the book, and I'd be going along, and all of a sudden my nose would start to itch, and I'd realize that wasn't what Moo wanted to say in this instance. Now, where he'd put words in my head. I wrote the concluding chapter for the book in about 3 hours. I just sat down and blasted it out. And I thought, man, I can't write this fast. Connie proofed it, and she said, you're getting better at this. And I said, no, I'm not getting better at this. I think Moo is.
So he's communicating with you telepathically?
Yes, he can do that.
Oh, awesome. Okay. All right. Okay, so from this series of sessions, what was one of the most shocking revelations that come to mind for you?
I think the most shocking revelation is the concept of universal reincarnation and the universality of our God and the powers that he has. The fact that all of our souls have reincarnated on other planets before we walk the earth. We walk the earth in this human lifetime. And if you stop and think about it, your soul energy has basically been eternal. It's been around from the start. Humans have only been here for 200,000 years. So where do you think your incarnate lives were spent before humans walked the earth? Well, the answer is on other planets. We've all been on other planets. I mean, it's just part of the learning process that's taken place through the millions of years that your soul energy has existed. And it took me a long time to get used to that concept.
And we decide if we want to reincarnate and come back. It's not something, right?
Right. If you're happy with there are 7 realms of heaven. If you're happy with the realm that your soul has earned, so be it. You can stay over. We've channeled with a lot coming back anymore.
Is Jesus coming back?
No, not in the form of Jesus. He may come back in another form, but Jesus will never return to us.
You're saying absolutely no as far as how the Bible describes it.
You will not see Jesus in the form of Jesus. He may return in another form if he deems it that it's necessary. But Jesus, the form of Jesus, will never return to us.
Very, very interesting here. Barry, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to give you a moment to tell my listeners where they can find more information about you or anything else you're working on.
Well, we have a new book that'll be coming out in May, and the title of that is Spirit Speak, Channeling the Life of Jesus. We have actually been communicating with him in our channeling sessions. I have videos of the sessions up on my YouTube channel. It's simply under my name, Barry Strom. Anybody can go in and watch where we channel with some of the holiest of saints and with Jesus himself. We've channeled with the Blessed Mother Mary, St. Matthew, St. Thomas, St. Paul, St. Peter, many others. And you can go in and watch us do it. You can make up your own mind whether we're actually channeling with the Spirit or not. I have another website. It's called wordsofgodthenandnow.com, Words of God Then and Now. And you can go in and read the transcripts from these channeling sessions on that particular website. Everything we do is we're trying to put it up on the internet so that people can make their own decisions, because we're doing things now that are so unbelievable that I would, if I was on the outside looking in, I'd have trouble believing it. So we lay it all out there.
I say the same thing, I encourage people to make up their own mind. Barry, many blessings to you, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me back. It was an honor.
To find out more about our guest and all others, please visit our website at mysteriousradio.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. What if comparing car insurance rates was as easy as putting on your favorite podcast? With Progressive, it is. Just visit the Progressive website to quote with all the coverages you want. You'll see Progressive's direct rate. Then, their tool will provide options from other companies so you can compare. All you need to do is choose the rate and coverage you like. Quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Did you know that you can buy your car completely online on AutoTrader? Really? Just visit AutoTrader.com, filter and search through dealer listings for the car you want, make, model, color, and all the features that matter to you. Go ahead. Get picky. Whether you're into subcompacts with heated cup holders, crossovers with all-wheel drive, pickups with kicking sound systems, or SUVs that can survive whatever chaos your kids unleash. Just drop in your info and you'll only see cars in your budget. Really. Once you find your one and only, you can do the whole deal online and have the car delivered to your driveway. Or you can pick it up at the dealership and drive your new ride right off the lot. Really. AutoTrader makes it easy to buy your car online because the whole process is designed around your wants and must-haves. AutoTrader. Buy your car online. Really.
Guys, it's no use putting it off. The best time for an underwear refresh is now. Tommy John underwear is designed for a perfect fit that stays put all day. There's zero chafe thanks to 4 times more stretch than competing brands. And their innovative horizontal quick draw fly is a game changer. With over 30 million pairs sold, there are thousands of men out there more comfortable than you. Don't settle for less. Go to TommyJohn.com today for 25% off your first order with code COMFORT. That's TommyJohn.com, code COMFORT. Tommy John, comfort perfected.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Did you know Tide has been upgraded to provide an even better clean in cold water? Tide is specifically designed to fight any stain you throw at it, even in cold. Butter? Yep. Chocolate ice cream? Sure thing. Barbecue sauce? Tide's got you covered. You don't need to use warm water. Additionally, Tide Pods let you confidently fight tough stains with new ColdZyme technology. Just remember, if it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide.
What happened to her?
The studio that bought you weapons comes a terrifying new vision.
What's our daughter doing? 3,000 sarcophagus.
Lee Cronin's The Mummy, only in theaters April 17th. New trailer online now.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now. You call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
Whether your car has small tires, big tires, tires that go fast, tires with extra grip, or tires that just get you from here to there, they can be an unexpected expense. Don't wait any longer. At Big O Tires, we have no credit needed financing available. So no matter your budget, no matter your situation, we have the lowest prices on every kind of tire every day. With multiple lending partners, our financing is tailored to you with credit options made easy. Don't wait another day. Take advantage of our good to no credit financing today. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
Now here's a highlight from Coast to Coast AM on iHeartRadio.
Welcome back to Coast AM. My name is Rich Barra, and Leslie McGurk is an astrologer and author and a teacher who translates astrology into clear, practical guidance for everyday life. Using a grounded approach, she explores astrology as a system of pattern recognition, that helps people make sense of why they react, struggle, and behave the way they do. It is so nice to meet you, Leslie. Welcome to Coast AM. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk to you tonight.
I have so many questions. Can we get right into the? Let's just get right into the heart of it.
Please do.
Why do you feel that some of us seem like we are more connected, more I would say emotional about the things that go on in the world, or maybe more sensitive to the world, where others don't seem affected by it at all? And think, everything's just the way it normally is.
I think which means they're a little bit more removed from being overly traumatized. So my moon is in Taurus, so I'm in the earth. Well, they want to hold their emotions. So that means they do opt out of how they're feeling. And same thing with the moon and water people. They are very emotional. And that's how you can understand compatibility and not be upset with people who are different than you. So I call astrology the language of compassion, because when you have people, like I could have as many as people in a room when I'm teaching in groups, and when the fire people hear how the water and earth people are dealing with an emotional situation, they can't believe it, because everyone believes that everyone should be exactly like them, and it doesn't work that way.
We think people think like us, so we're surprised when they don't.
That's what you just said about the people with the music taste. Like, how can you not like that? It's a very emotional thing for you because you love it, and when you see people not getting it, they're just not coming from the same place. And astrology would explain that. And I would say that if somebody doesn't react the way you do with the music that you love, it would be difficult for you to be married to that person, because you're just coming from a different side of, and not that it's good or bad, it's just different.
You know, there is something too that I remember playing something for my wife Stacy when we were dating, and she started crying. I'm like, oh, okay. It's a good fit.
Exactly.
Because she was feeling it too. I'm like, okay, that's a match. I wonder, with what you know, are you pretty good at matching up couples?
Yes, that's one of my favorite things to do, because I can save people from so much heartache. Yes, you can see. So we have to have a few things covered when it comes to relationships. Forget about sun sign compatibility. That's not going to tell you enough. It's interesting, it's fun, but it's not deep enough. We want to look at moon sign compatibility. Are you emotionally going to be okay? So because I'm on the water earth side of things, I have a better chance of success with a partner who has something in those two categories. Otherwise, if I'm with someone who has their moon in air, this is what it's going to feel like. And I tell this to couples all the time if they have this. I say, you're like a little, if you're an earth moon person like me, you're like a little puppy dog at the bottom of a tree. And if your partner has their moon in air, they're like a bird up in the tree. And you're trying to get them to come down and play with you. And the bird is looking at you like, what are you talking about? That's not what I do. I'm up here observing everything from a higher perspective. And it's not that the bird is wrong or the puppy is wrong. They're just completely different in how they are going to approach their emotions. And when you look at it that way, it brings so much peace.
Listen to more Coast to Coast AM every weeknight at 1 a.m. Eastern. And go to coasttocoastam.com for more.
Whether your car has small tires, big tires, tires that go fast, tires with extra grip, or tires that just get you from here to there, they can be an unexpected expense. Don't wait any longer. At Big O Tires, we have no credit needed financing available. So no matter your budget, no matter your situation, we have the lowest prices on every kind of tire every day. With multiple lending partners, our financing is tailored to you with credit.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? Take the guesswork out of your morning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. The service is free and provides a report with solutions verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey listeners, I'm Sean Flynn, host of the Brothers Ortiz podcast, and I'm excited to share this riveting story with you. But I'm also excited to tell you that you can now get access to all episodes of the Brothers Ortiz 100% ad-free and 1 week early through the iHeart True Crime Plus subscription, available exclusively on Apple Podcasts. Plus, you'll get access to other chart-topping true crime shows you love, like The Girlfriends, Paper Ghosts, Piketon Massacre, Murder Homes, Unrestorable, The Godmother, Betrayal, and more. So don't wait. Head to Apple Podcasts, search for iHeart True Crime Plus, and subscribe today.
Utah is on track to be short more than 153,000 homes by the year 2030 and falling further behind every year. That shortage is driving up costs, forcing families to rent longer and pushing kids out of state. We can fix it by building enough homes to meet demand. Join Utah's biggest push for affordable housing at demandmoresupply.com. Don't wait. Do your part today. Visit demandmoresupply.com. Together, we can keep Utah families close. Paid for by Utah Workforce Housing Advocacy. This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we have a special guest, Scott Roeder, the crime scene reconstruction expert from Ohio. He's joined us again. He's the person who basically proved to the world that we're not alone with his investigation of the Las Vegas alien incident. We made that determination last year. Scott had the evidence, him and his team, and now he has come up with a new podcast today on his Crime Scene Time Machine podcast on Spotify. I will leave a link to it there in the description. And he has now says the Miami Mall incident has been debunked, and that happened on New Year's Day of 2024, I believe, or New Year's.
Yeah,
Day.
That's right. At the Bayside New Year's Day at the Bayside Mall in Miami. I was actually just recently there, and it's one of the most requested. Obviously, other than the Las Vegas case, one of the most requested cases for me to review. And I've always thought it was an interesting case. I think there's some interesting elements of it. Due to public demand of this case just not going away, I wanted to take a look at and put to determining whether the material is reliable. Essentially, not to give away the entire show, because I hope you just go and watch it. We start with an open mind about what the material could be. Source of the story, right? Some other witnesses, some of the footage inside of the mall, the portal in the mall, the creatures outside the mall, these things that I think there's a lot of buzz around it, but I don't see anything laying foundation, metadata, and then I can duplicate certain filters on footage where I could foresee it being possible and most likely that a lot of the footage out there is manipulated in a substantial way with basic filters that can kind of take a shape and extend it out, cause it to be a big blank shadow, and then other CGI effects. So I just don't see any consistency in the material, but I gave it a fair shot. I looked at the witnesses, and I think I just weighed it against reasonable forensic science practices. And even though there is some suspicion or some sneaky behavior or some shady behavior by the Miami Police Department on their public statements about it, and I think some of the material is somewhat inexplicable for what they said happened versus the response of the law enforcement, but not being able to apply photogrammetry inside of the videos to get proper scale with a moving background from multiple camera views, and any reliable firsthand witnesses or 911 calls or body camera footage. It just doesn't raise to the level of anything that I think is probable. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. I just don't think we have the evidence to say that.
So basically, you looked at there was a lot of different videos that I've seen over this. And when I first saw some of the videos, I thought just the first time, I thought this looks like it's CGI to me. There was like beings that was appearing in a mall, and it looked like something out of a video game almost to me. It didn't have, it just seemed unnatural in that sense. And plus, on the top of it, the other issue that I had with this case, and I'm not saying one way or the other whether it's true. I don't know. We're talking about what your feeling is now on this incident after looking at it. What I'm saying is that the problem with it is that there was never like who was responsible for this video. That we have their cell phone. We have we don't know where it came from, and there was a lot of that out there. Like we don't know where these videos came from. Sometimes there's no source that you could point it back. Were there videos like this where you could figure out where they came from?
provided this video, who initially uploaded. Like, there's no witnesses sometimes to some of these cases, some of these videos. And then there were some people that said they saw things, but then there was like one guy I saw, remember, he came out and he said he saw something, and the next day he came out and he said, I was just lying. So it was hard to really ascertain the truth from fiction.
Yeah, and I don't let that frustrate me from evaluating it on a gut standpoint as well, because I think some of the witnesses are pretty believable and they weave a pretty interesting story. However, I think you go to the important point that there's not enough original camera operator with the original footage put out at a verifiable time that coincides with a realistic timeline of events. Everything's very vague. Nobody is owning the material except for this one guy, Fitz, but he doesn't actually put his material out. He plays it on a television and then films it because allegedly he took his with an old school 8-track shoulder held device. And it might be something similar to some of those other cases where maybe there might be a bit of evidence out there that might be true, but it's flooded with fakes. So it really makes an investigator's job difficult to determine what's real or not. I couldn't put any reliable test to the authenticity of the videos to get past that initial curiosity standpoint.
So after how much time did you spend on this case looking at it?
I mean, enough, I think, to determine that there's not enough available information to confirm that it's a real event. I obviously have a full-time job. I don't get paid for doing the UFO phenomenon stuff. So my time I use sparingly and as a hobby, really, honestly. This is a service that I provide that hopefully is entertaining for people. But obviously, the majority of my time is on my regular homicide cases. This is just a bit of a pastime. People wanted to hear about it. And, I think this is a good enough investigation based on the quality of the material that we have.
Well, I know that you've been looking at this case for a long time. That's why I asked that question. I mean, we've been talking about this a year ago, and you were looking at it piecemeal here and there. I mean, it's been we brought private conversations that we've had over the last year or so, over longer than a year, talking about this. You would bring it up every now and then, and you were looking into it here and there, and now you finally made a conclusion that this is most likely not real, and that there was like 5 witnesses that had stepped forward, something like that, 5 or 6. I believe.
There were several witnesses, but they were not able to be contacted. There was no appropriate ability to reach out for an interview. I tried to direct message a lot of these people. I didn't receive anything back. So there was no way to verify what anybody said. It just kind of viral videos. Now, the footage that I found the most compelling was the footage inside of the mall, which showed some, really inexplicable, cartoonish type characters. But, I don't want to dismiss that out of hand, out of a gut. I wanted to look at that footage and say, well, maybe some things are just good and real. So I wanted to suspend my disbelief and do a due diligence. So, I used the tools that we have available to analyze it. And it looks like, to me, the majority of the characters that we can see in the interior mall video can be easily manipulated and added via basic off-the-shelf filtering. So it's not even that sophisticated of manipulation. But, I don't want to get into the intent of the people. I think some people LARP. Right? Some people just do fun stuff or try to add on to a trend. I think something happened there. I'm not sure exactly. It was exactly what the police say happened because they act a little bit sus as well, but not enough suspicion for me to say I want to keep this on my radar of unexplained events.
Yeah, what was their excuse for what was going on at that moment was...
They claim that there were several teenage kids that got into a fight that turned into a gunfight, or somebody hit some fireworks or whatnot, and it caused a panic. I'm not sure I believe that. There could be some truth to that. There's no evidence of that. There was no evidence collected, for the kind of police presence that showed up. There was very little documentation about what happened. So I think something suspicious happened. I'm just not sure it's phenomenon related.
Yeah, there really weren't that many witnesses. There's a lot of cases out there, and that's what I want to seg into something else here now, based on this. Before we do seg into this, I wanted to just say, if you're interested in seeing Scott talk about this in depth, he does have this new podcast that will be on. It's on his Spotify channel, Crime Scene Time Machine.
Tonight.
It's tonight. It was just premiered today, and so I will leave a link in the description so you can check that out. But I guess moving on to some other cases, for instance. There's certain cases that happen out there. There's not a lot of physical evidence, or video evidence, film evidence, stuff like that. Sometimes there are cases out there where you just have a lot of witnesses. And I just want to know, say, for instance, you're aware of the 1994 aerial school incident that happened in Rua, Zimbabwe, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a great incident. And we've got young kids, varying ages of 9 to 12 or 14 or something like that. Or even younger, but a large group of kids, educated kids in Zimbabwe, on a break, and they all draw pictures and say they saw the exact same thing. Beyond reproach from a farcical event, Dr. John Mack went down there, interviewed them, determined nobody was lying. There really is never really been a detractor, except for something I didn't give much credit to. So when you have such a large group of people all being super consistent and then analyzed by a psychiatrist who's an expert in the field, I got to put that one toward the top of the list of actual real events.
Yeah, so there's over 60 school children that are terrified running after this incident occurs. There was a handful of them that said that they were communicated with telepathically by one of these beings, and they were shown scenes of destruction, and they were basically told that technology is bad, and that was the message. Right? And then when this whole event ended, they went to run. So a lot of them were scared and crying to the teachers. I guess it's impossible from my point of view, for a bunch of kids that age to contrive something like this and then maintain a story like this for over 30 years, because now they're all grown up, and for the most part they all pretty much are consistent. It's the same, the story's the same, it hasn't changed.
Right, human nature is such a thing that when you have such a large group of people with non-converging interests have identical stories, we call that in the evidence, very strong corroborated evidence, verified by professionals. I mean, that's, I believe those kids. What they actually experienced, what was actually there, we don't know. We know what they said it looked like. We know what they said it said. So I think you just take the kids at their word for that event and say that that's a event where, something phenomenal, and I think this is where that word is appropriately used, something phenomenal encountered these kids, and I don't think they're lying.
Yeah. And then another case would be that I love, the Roswell case. I mean, the 1947 something happens, but it's not until 30 years plus later where people start finding out that something happened. It was covered up at the time. And then from 1978 on, 1978 was when Jesse Marcel Sr., who was the top intelligence official at the Roswell Army Airfield back in Roswell in 1947, he came forward and told Stanton Friedman, the late UFO researcher, that there was materials that he discovered that weren't from any sort of aircraft that he was familiar with, and he doesn't know what it was. He said it was a cover-up. And then after he did that, over the decades, there were a lot of different researchers that looked into this case, like Donald Schmidt, Thomas Carey, Kevin Randall, among many others, and they talked to a bunch of different witnesses, a lot of them military witnesses, a lot of them who provided deathbed confessions about, this was a cover-up, and some of them said they saw the aliens, some of them saw the craft, some of them saw both. There was a guy who was the press relations officer who signed an affidavit several years before he died, Walter Haut, who stated that he saw there was a cover-up. He was part of it. He kept his mouth shut, even in the years when it became popular, in the 80s and 90s, up until his death in the 2000s. He kept a lot of that secret, but he did write it down in this signed affidavit stating that he saw the bodies and the wreckage and the flying saucer. So when you have all of these people, hundreds of people were interviewed, all had a little piece of a story. What does that tell you as a crime scene expert when you look at the Roswell case and all these different witnesses that step forward, and you compare that against the story that the Air Force has been providing over the years, saying it was crash test dummies and balloons? What do you think when you see this, when you hear something?
Well, I mean, I think it's known as the Roswell crash, but I think more accurately called the crash at Corona, right? Is the actual one where there were bodies recovered and so I think it was the Corona crash is what they're really talking about in that Roswell area. So and I think there were reports of multiple objects coming down.
There was a debate on whether it was one UFO or two. I think based on the evidence from ICE, it doesn't make me right. I think it was probably one, but apparently it initially exploded about 75 miles north of Roswell, and there was some debris there, and then the main piece came down about 45 miles. It was northwest of Roswell, where 75 miles northwest, where there was debris found on this farm ranch land. And then there was the main piece came down about 45 miles north of Roswell, where the main piece and the bodies were found. But I mean, from as a crime scene expert, what do you say about this? All these witnesses saying one thing, and you have a couple of people from the Air Force who weren't even there who say, "Yeah, it was dummies."
I mean, for one, it's a cold case, right? Because it happened in 1948, 1947, and what was it, July?
47.
1947. And, and I think if you look at that, it was a paradigm shifting moment, right? This is right after the use of nuclear weapons in Japan. This is right before the CIA is formed. This is right before and the Antarctica Treaty was agreed to. This is at a time where something big happened on Earth this could have been some kind of a harbinger of that technology and geopolitical collaboration. From a crime scene standpoint, I think you have to look at the corroborated testimony. There's been books written about it. It's not a case that I've obsessed over. I have come to the agreement that I think it's a real event. Now, whether it's technology from someplace else on Earth, whether it's technology from someplace under our water, whether it's from our near solar system, or whether it's from some intergalactic solar system, or whether it's interdimensional, or whatever it might be, I don't think we have any idea about that. We just know that there are these strange creatures that crashed, and that very little we know about them other than that. So I think that event happened, where they came from, what they did with it afterward, how it was utilized for technology and investigation moving forward, I think is up for, academic, gentlemanly debate. But I think it's a real event, and I think, it happened a long time ago, but it seemed to coincide with a time where we officially went from the analog age to the digital age, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
Well, with the number of witnesses, again, just like the Ariel School incident, where you have, in this Roswell, we had even more witnesses. I mean, all had it's just like a piece of the puzzle they all provided, and you put it together and it tells you a story. When you have that many people, I mean, it becomes hard for me to believe otherwise, I think. That's my issue. Is that?
No, I think that you have reasonable suspicion to believe that that's a true event. Now, what is true? Like, what does it mean? Where were they from? Who were they? Were they from outer space? Were they from here? Was it Nazis? Was it under the ocean? I think, maybe it's a smaller percentage chance that it was something like a human, like that we know of. But I think that there is equal chance that it came from under the ocean, or came from inside of a volcano, or came from the moon. I don't think we have any idea of where it came from or what they are. I think the event is documented to have happened. What it means, I don't know. But because it's such an old event and there's so much research done about it, I think logically, I have to say that something real happened. What happened? I think, I think you could genuinely come up with multiple ideas.
Well, I mean, I just personally, based on the research that I've done on this case, I'm convinced that there was non-human intelligence involved and it was a cover-up. I mean, there's just too many witnesses in my viewpoint. That's how I see it. But I mean, I don't know if you can go to a court of law and prove it. I mean, I'm not sure what you could prove with something like Ariel School, where these cases where you have lots of witnesses, but not a lot of physical evidence. I mean, you could say that for a lot of cases, but
yeah. Well, the thing
that's
different about the crime, right? Because my area of it is crime, evidence for committing a crime, whether something happened or didn't happen. Because there's always a consequence to it, and there's rules and policies and procedures for consequences. The only crime that happened at Roswell would be the cover-up and the lying by the government, right? The only crime that happened at the Ariel School was that, you know, the teacher was told not to promote it as a real event, and maybe somebody might have got flipped, but these kids weren't hurt, nobody was harmed. So there's no crime that was committed there. So there's no standard to say, okay, you know, it's up to you in your heart, in your mind. Do you believe these? Is it reasonable to believe it? Yeah, absolutely. Is the evidence support it? Yeah. But it does leave the window or the door open for deniability if you're not predisposed to be open-minded.
That is something that does seem to happen in this phenomenon. There's always like a lot of cases. The doors open a little bit. I mean, very few cases in my mind. I think, for instance, the Las Vegas case, the door doesn't. There's no opening. I mean, maybe somebody could find a little opening, but I don't see it. To me, that one took us across the line. But I mean, for most cases, there's always that little somewhere where someone could say, "Well, I don't believe it because of this." Right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, there's always it seems to be that way in a lot.
Yeah, I think the phenomenon, for whatever reason, whether it's planned, inadvertent, or natural, it kind of gives people an out to not look, not react, right? But I think if you're tuned into it, or if it happens so obviously right in front of you, you know, I think there's certain undeniabilities, right? So, but I think that's part of the high strangeness that Jacques Vallée has written about, and, you know, Richard Dolan has extended, you know, extensive information about. Every story I've ever heard, you know, Angel Kenmore, the high strangeness that happened with him in the Vegas situation. You know, some people think these things are demons, or they're from the ocean, or they're from another planet. I think the big question is, you know, we know that we're being visited by something from somewhere that doesn't seem to be us.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with the evidence scientifically being able to prove that that's the case over a large period of time, a number of different parties, different countries, different times, on video, substantiated in person with professionals. So yeah, the reality of this phenomenon is real. And I think the question is, you know, we already knew that part's over, right?
Right, it's over now.
Right. The point I think we're trying to make is, well, where do we go from here? You know, we have to gauge these new events with, and not bias ourselves knowing that it's already real, but we don't have to suspend disbelief to be curious about the possibility to do an investigation. And, you know, and I gave Miami Mall a fair shake. It doesn't rise to the level of evidentiary standard, and that's my opinion. And I think we do a pretty good job breaking that down on the show. But I even say in there, just because there's weird things that happen, and we know that events happen in real life because we proved it, and so many other people have proved it as well, you can't have confirmation bias, right? And it's okay, and that's what I've done on this last episode, to put my foot down and say debunked. It's fun. I'm not going to blame you if you think it's real. It's fun, but I don't think it's real, and I'm moving on to something else.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. I mean, and the other thing, you're clear here. Like, as from everything you've looked at, you've made that determination. As far as you're concerned, this thing was a non-event. In that.
No. I mean, it was
not an NHI. I mean,
yeah.
You're not seeing that, but I mean, doesn't mean that at some point in the future, if somebody were to present something else, you might change your mind. You're just saying at this point, it doesn't look. There's not enough evidence here to say that there's something going on here, strange, like people have been suggesting.
Well, yeah, I don't think that this is a legitimate, credible, verifiable UFO phenomenon event. I think that this is a mixture of a confusing event, an overreaction by law enforcement, maybe some gaslighting by law enforcement, kind of like what they did in Phoenix for that actual real event a long time ago. And then with some internet virality that I think people were LARPing and having some fun with it. So I think at the end of the day, I put that at an under 50% chance of being real, unless other further evidence comes out that's credible, that can be analyzed.
Okay, and you speaking of that, you just brought up something you were alluding to, the Phoenix Lights incident of 1997. I want to talk about that a little bit, as well as another case that I think mirrors that somewhat, is the Stephenville/Dublin, Texas area sightings of 2007, 2008, which again included a gigantic craft. The Stephenville, Texas one included, there was hundreds of people that saw it. The Phoenix Lights, you're looking at thousands of people that saw this. It becomes undeniable. I mean, there were, in the Stephenville, Texas one, there was people saw jet fighters chasing after this giant craft at one point. There was just a lot of people, credible people, stepping forward, talking to reporters and telling them they saw this giant object, right?
Yeah.
The sky silent. Same thing happened in 1997 in Phoenix, when a lot of people, thousands at least, saw this thing, including the governor, including Kurt Russell. I was just talking about this in a day.
Yeah. I saw that interview with Kurt Russell, and I saw the double interview with the governor. He's the one, he's made fun of it, gaslit everybody, brought somebody out in a puffy green alien costume. But then years later, he sat down and he's like, he so regrets that because he saw it too, and he thought it was real. But he panicked and debunked it and gaslit everybody, and I think he regrets it at the end of the day.
And so what's your feeling on those kinds of cases where you have hundreds, if not thousands, of people that all say they saw a giant silent object hovering around in the sky, and also it's sometimes getting chased by our military jets, and then of course the military denies it? What's going on as a crime scene expert? What do you see when you hear a story like that and all these witnesses saying one thing and the government denies it? How do you see that then?
Well, again, there's no crime except for maybe lying, and the lying would be by the government. But the government, we know they're going to lie about everything because they overclassify everything. Everything falls under national security. Everything. So we know that they're not going to tell us the truth on any significant event by voluntary nature of who they are, what they do, and how they do things for at least 50 years. And even then, begrudgingly, they've got to be pulled with their neck under a guillotine to admit something that maybe one person's still alive for. So you can't believe the government on any issue about anything, whether it's UFOs, political events, wars, protests, and all the like. We can't believe the government on anything that they say. So I think that's how I feel about it, that the only crime there is that the government gaslit everybody and said, we don't know nothing, don't see nothing, whatever. They pulled the Sergeant Schultz when the evidence dictated a much more serious investigation. And at that time in 1992, nobody's going to take it seriously, period. 97. Nobody's going to take it seriously in 97. It's just crackpot, cue the X-Files music, who's playing at sports. And that's it. That's how it gets covered. And, I think we're in a little different era now because we've got so much kind of government fake whistleblowing stuff going on. And you and I disagree on that. Mostly PSYOP to obfuscate and take away the real attention from the real UFO stuff, like what we've been doing, like on Vegas. And move it into, hey, it's a threat and we got to make money on it. Let's add money to the National Defense Authorization Bill. This time, let's make it $3 trillion. And, I think that's what this whole UFO disclosure movement's about. But that's just my gut as an expert working with law enforcement, knowing they never do anything voluntarily with anybody unless they already know the result. And I think they're doing that with this stuff because they already know what this stuff is that they're letting out. Most likely it's them.
Speaking of that, it's funny. I always, over the years, like in the 90s, early the 2000s, 80s even, right? I always thought that the local news would do a better job covering these events than the mainstream news was always tongue-in-cheek presentation for the most part. But sometimes that would happen on local news, but a lot of local news would take them. In that sense, they're dealing with the people who are affected. They're in their backyard. I mean, basically. Yeah. it's you see that difference, over the decades.
Well, I know people in local news here in Cleveland, a couple of good guys that I've worked with on murder cases that we tried to get out on, or post-conviction cases that we won, or testimony that was newsworthy. And, they have a formula. And every news station, local, you get 3 channels, you get ABC, NBC, Fox, and maybe a local, and they all have the same formula. Here's the world news, here's sports, here's weather, here's a heartwarming story, and a bunch of commercials for a bunch of bullshit. And that's what you get on local news, and they repeat that as a formula over and over and over again throughout everywhere. So, yeah, local news is garbage. National news is garbage. Cable news is garbage. Print news, for the most part, is garbage. I think you have independent people. You have to use discernment and trust to see who's got an angle, who's trying to be performative, who's doing an actual investigation, and who's just entertainment. And you just got to use your big boy brains to be like, who do I trust? Who's got something to gain? And I think at the same time, for me, I don't see an emergency with it because my life's going on either way. And same as yours and all our viewers. And I think, one caution that I have is, I look at it because it's a hobby and I find it interesting and intellectual and exciting at times. And I think, it's just interesting discovering or trying to discover something that is trying to be hidden, right? Because if they're trying to hide it, I want to see it.
Okay, I want to just bring up one more case for you. The Turkey U.S.
All right. See y'all later.